Alright, so we're doing a little sanding and shaping on the nut. And the only surface I'm not doing is this nice square bottom edge. And the reason we don't do that is because when it goes on the dulcimer, we want it to be flush and have good glue surface all the way across. Alright, so I want my corner to round over slightly. It doesn't matter, but if I'm going to look down at it while I'm playing, I want it to look a little kind of okay. So, and that's a technical term for you specificologists. That's look kind of okay. And that is now, because this is a scrap wood, I have a teeny little kerf mark there from where I didn't pull the scrap straight away, and it got marked by the blade on the table saw when I was cutting board staves. But it is perfectly suited for doing this kind of job. And just give the sides a little sanding, give the top a little sanding, just so it's nice and smooth. The finish on this project is probably going to be very simple. This would be something that you could easily just spray with shellac after it's assembled, and then give it a very, very light sanding. Probably put a piece of painter's tape over the fretboard, because you don't want shellac on your frets or all that. There are dyes for doing that, or I can just use my little trick with the walnut scratch repair, and that always works well for me. Alright, so we moved on to the bridge, and the first thing we're going to do is take off this little breakaway. Same the other end. Now, if you're fussy, you can probably count strokes. I'm not. I can tell you to take the fretboard down from 0.3 to 0.25 took roughly 500 strokes. But some of those were the full length of the belt, and others were just the 2 from half strokes. And why do you count the strokes when you're sanding? Well, number one, it's a handy bit of information to know that at 60 grit, it takes X number of strokes by hand to pare off 5/100ths of an inch. Why don't you just use a belt sander? I've got a 30 grit zircon belt on there. It would eat that piece of pine away before I could do anything with it. All right. I've got a kerf mark here on this. I don't know if you can actually see that. Yeah. All right, so there's a little kerf mark here, and I'm going to sand that out. Being careful, of course, not to take too much off, but I want it to be a flat, plain surface as much as possible. For when my strings come over the bridge, I want it to be smooth. Doesn't have to be fancy. Just, hit the high spots as you might expect a child to do if they were making this for themselves in an industrial arts class or a guided art class, where all the materials are prepared and essentially all they have to do is a little sanding and a little finishing. And the project, I mean, it's a piece of pine furring strip. So if you... Alright, and there we go. Alright, now, I want to take it over the 150. Top. Side one. Oops. All right. End to end, not side to side. All right, there we go. There's our bridge. And let me take another look at the nut to make sure I'm happy with it all around. I think I am fairly happy, but there's a kerf mark on top. I'm going to work on that a minute. That's a little better. Could just take a chisel to that, or I could just leave it alone. It's entirely the personal preference of the maker. And I think just for demonstration purposes, we're just going to leave it be. It's not something that is going to affect, and if it does, well, that's what fret files are for. Alright, so anyway, here we are. This piece of wood I've already filed in one of the string notches, and I'm going to put these strings a hair under 1/4 inch apart. That way, you have 2 droning strings and 1 melody string. But my fingers are kind of like sausages, so and I haven't played in a long time. I was really a good guitar player anyway, and not very good. So this will be a little learning curve, but it'll be fun. So turn that properly. All right. So our Our action is going to be nice and low. The next thing we need to do is lay out our fretboard. And these, if you follow the link and you go to this article by Shane Speal at cigarboxguitars.com, and I believe that was formerly Cigarbox Nation, then you'll have this plan, and it'll have some history of the instrument and some information on Tut Taylor, who designed it, and you will get a table of measurements for the fretboard. And it's a 14 fret instrument, and I'm going to take my caliper and lay these out, and it has not only the linear measurement from the nut all the way down to the last fret, the 14th fret, but it also has the fret to fret measurement. So my caliper is not large enough to do the entire fretboard increment to increment, but it is plenty large enough to do from one fret to the next. So that's what I am going to do. And so I like to work from left to right. I'm right-handed. I like to work left to right. This is something where you southpaws may have an easier thing, because I have to lay it out, and then I have to remember to turn it around when I put it back on. So I am going to write on my end grain that this is the nut. And I think I'll use the surface that we sanded on that 80 grit to put my frets on, because I've got some joiner rash and little table saw rash on the other side, which would be fine for gluing. But so I'm going to lay out my fretboard, and your first measurement is 1.896 from the nut to 1. All right. Now I'm going to account for the width of the ball on my pen, and so I'm going to measure from the nut to 1.9, and then, as we all know, all right. They say the first one is the worst one, so there it is. And then my next fret is 1.689. And And same trick. I'm going to get that as the top jaw of my caliper as close to this line, maybe even split the line, and then draw on my marker. And you have to be careful because there are a couple of recesses in this jaw. It is not complete. So what I need to do is be sure that I'm using the center surface of these jaws as my marker. All right, and that is there we go. And then I will come back with the square or the end of my metal ruler and make the square line across before we get into the sawing. All right, 0.774. All right, and so to do that third fret, I went to 0.78 and then just took my pen and held it a little more upright instead of it at an angle, and that should give us a fairly accurate fret. And, all right, 1.42. So I'm going to go to 1.43 and do the same process. All right. And this is by and large the most accurate measuring, or the most painstaking measuring that I have ever. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, 1.265. .265. Again, going to the next 100th and marking all right, there we go. And like this one, my caliper slipped, and so I was a little proud, and I came back and made a more exacting line, And the instrument's going to be fairly forgiving. There are people doing this with a pocket knife. But at the same time, you know, if I can make it, you know, I want to be as accurate as possible. All right, so 265, then 0.58. All right, which end? Exactly 0.58. All right, so going to 0.59, and I'm trying to hit my mark just a little proud. So that when I come back and use my square, then I'm, you know, you'll put the pen on the line, move the square to the pen, and then make the line. Dusty in here, you'd think it was wood shop or something. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that's the 7th fret. All right, 0.547. So we're just going to back that up to 0.55. There we go. Same trick. Line up and use that top jaw to sort of split the line, and then go to your next fret. I think I'm going to take pencil and just mark these. All right, that was fret number 7. And these are going to get progressively tighter after fret 8. Fret 8 is your octave. So that's the midway of the scale. And you say, midway, but I don't have much fretboard left. Well, your scale is from the nut to the bridge. Fretboard is only the notable surface. Although there are some tricks you can do with that too. 0.517. So I'm going to go 0.52. All right. And then I'm going to split that line and do my best to come in just a hair. Well, you will be a hair proud because you can't reach the exact edge. All right. All right. I put in a little tiny 8 and a little O just as a memory jogger for myself, because better even be more accurate, use pencil lead. So I'll do that because I just had the little like 0.7 millimeter or 0.5, and that was 8. So number 9 is 0.948, so we go to 0.95. All right, 0.95 and double check 0.948. Line up and split like we talked about. Alrighty. Yes, I think that is a cleaner line. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and mark it. Now the original plank had numbers on the fretboard, and that's because the tablature that came with it told you what fret to play, and it was one of the easy to play strategies that were very popular back then. All right, our 10th fret, 0.844, so I'm going to go 0.85. Now, I don't have any background in luthiery whatsoever. My claim to fame is that I built a cookie tin banjo once out of, oops, I blew that. That was dumb. What did I do that for? See, can't talk and work at the same time. That's, I mean, it's right, but it's wrong because it's not supposed to be there. It's supposed to be here. Right. That was 10. Number 11 is 0.387. Let's go 0.39. Right. As we get down into these high frets, the lead on your carpenter's pencil will be the exact wrong tool, no matter how sharp. So, all right, 12th fret, 0.71. So, we're going to go 0.72. And use our little trick. All right. And 13 is 0.633. So we're going to go 0.64 and be right at our line. And we're going to cut that thing as... Yeah, we'll cut it a little proud, that way it's closer to 3/3 than 4. Alright, and our last fret is 0.29. So we'll go 0.3 and use our little trick. Alright, and we will mark this guy. Alright, turn our caliper off. Alright, so here you can see this is the nut end. It will actually be over here on the instrument facing me, But when you play it, the headstock will be to the left, unless you string it upside down like your Jimi Hendrix and play it left-handed. So anyway, as you can see, our fretboard is all laid out. I'm going to come back with the square and put lines all the way across. And then I think I'm going to have a cup of coffee and then come back and cut frets. Ooh, that's not going to work. I need a very short. And this is the being careful part, and I'll show you how we'll do the frets here in a moment, and then I'm going to take a break and come back and get it done. Good. And of course, after you cut the frets, then you're going to sand everything up and get it ready to glue. And that includes sanding the body and back of the instrument. And the last thing I'm going to do is glue my, or drill my headstock. All right. So, here you see what I have done. Please endeavor to work more accurately than me. All right, one last thing before I take my break. I am going to use this little tiny miter box. If you don't have one of these, it's not the end of the world. You can take a piece of wood or even a metal ruler just like this and use it as a saw guide. And the whole idea is to just cut a very, very low curve. You're not cutting deep, but you need a straight line across here for your fret wire. If you're using wire, you can use tiny little dowels. I saw a project where it was suggested that you use these bamboo skewers. It was a different instrument, but the principle is the same. You want something very small that's not going to stick up very high because you have a low action. And you want to be able to note, and you don't want anything dampening the strings vibration. That's where the sound comes from. So I am going to say that we are making progress here. I'm probably gonna make a little groove for the nut after I sand everything up. But we are making progress. So here you can see that we have our fretboard, our nut, and our bridge. Those positions are all set. When it's time to sand, I'm probably going to take a marking knife and mark my position for the bridge and the nut, because very likely all of my lines will be sanded off. All right, so we're going to call it for a moment. I'm going to go have a cup of coffee. Hey, you all, if you want to get in on this Plank Dulcimer challenge, it'll be our first project of 2026. I'd like to do a challenge every month. I don't know if that'll happen. But the Soldier Farms Plank Dulcimer Challenge begins January 5th, 2026. The brief is build a plank dulcimer based on the Hee-Haw plank from 1976. I will link information, an article by Shane Speal on in the description of the video. I'll also put it on my community page, and you know, there will either be a file there you can download or you know, some links. So the rules of the challenge are fairly simple and straightforward. You must begin with a board, either a single piece or a glue up, any wood that you want to use, no larger and no smaller than 24 inches in length, 3.5 inches wide, and 3/4 of an inch thick, you know, 1x4. So your dulcimer must have 3 strings, a fretboard, a nut, a bridge, a tailpiece, must be fretted and tuned. Number 3, a chambered body is optional. Electronics are not. We're not getting into electronics. It's an acoustic instrument. So you may use commercial strings, but no tuning machines. Make your tuners. Either make tuning pegs like I am, use some eye bolts, eye screws. I've even seen it done with cup hooks. It's very interesting. So then you're to enter, comment your channel name under the hashtag SF Plank Dulcimer Challenge. Number 6, video reveal must be received no later than January 16th, 2026 at 11:59 p.m. And that's all the way across the country. So if you live in California, yours is due at midnight for you. If you live in Nova Scotia, well, your entry is due at midnight for you. So your string gauges, you're going to have a melody string, which is a .012, a middle .014, and a bass string .024. These are very light gauges. It's a dulcimer. It'll be twangy. So that's only a suggestions, but please review the attached article, and there are a couple of videos on the subject instrument, and I look forward to seeing all of your entries. And it's a challenge. I'll see if I can come up with some prizes. Thank you.